Alright, hello everybody, welcome back. This time, I'm going to be showing you guys my setup, which is also the best possible setup for Kayle. This is for any kind of Kayle, basically, except jungle Kayle and support Kayle, because I don't play jungle and support, but any solo lane Kayle, this will do. So, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about first the best rune pages, the ones that I use, and then I'll be showing you guys the mastery page. So the rune page is pretty simple. You just stack as much attack speed as possible, and then you get whatever cooldown reduction you need depending on your items. So personally, I use two different rune pages because sometimes I play with Gnasher's Tooth as my only CDR item, in which case I need 20% CDR for my runes, because I want it capped. And other times I have Lichbane as my other CDR item, in which case I only need 10% from my runes. But basically, the page you want as Kayle is attack speed reds and attack speed quints. Just as much as possible. If you don't have attack speed reds and quints, you can't really win your lane as Kayle. You can't go AD, you can't go Magic Pen, you can't go Hybrid Pen. If you try any of those things, you will lose your lane. Attack speed is just the best. I have scaling health seals because since we're playing in a solo lane, getting scaling stats for defensive runes is the best. You're going to be leveling pretty quickly, you're going to be level 6 really fast, so they will outscale very quickly. The reason we get health instead of armor is just because scaling health is a better defensive stat in the mid game than scaling armor is. So that's the reason for that, and the rest is scaling CDR. I have one CDR quint for this page because it's the 20% page, and then all of my blues are scaling CDR. The other page that I use, that you can use, is this page. This is actually the exact same page, except we have the CDR quint switched out for attack speed, and then instead of having pure scaling CDR for blues, we have 6 flat CDR and 3 scaling, which gives us 10% exactly. So that's the best possible way you can set up your runes for Kayle. If you're actually building 40% CDR in your items, you don't need any cooldown reduction, in which case you can go with whatever suits your style best. You can go with flat attack speed, you can go with scaling ability power, or you can go with some kind of defensive magic resist setup. It's up to you. But those are the runes. Like I said, if you can afford this stuff, there's no real alternative. You can't really do anything else on Kayle. This is just the best. So, as far as your masteries go, you're going to want Fervor of Battle, because no other mastery deals as much damage on Kayle as Fervor of Battle does. I've actually seen people discussing Thunderlords on Kayle. In my opinion, Thunderlords is ridiculous. There's no reason to actually go with that mastery, because there's no point in the game at which the burst from Thunderlords is more important than the sustained damage from Fervor of Battle. You would think that the burst from Thunderlords is better in the early game, but the fact of the matter is that Kayle is an attack speed champion. Even if you're building full AP on Kayle, you're still going to have your attack speed runes, you're still going to go Fury, and you're still going to have Berserker Greaves and Gnasher's Tooth with Rage Blade. So, yeah, in other words, Fervor of Battle is just superior in every way. As far as the rest of the masteries go, the general philosophy is I just get as much damage as humanly possible, because Kayle's the kind of champion where I just try to make as much out of my ultimate as possible. So I just ult myself in a team fight and then I kill everyone. That's the basic idea, at least in the late game. Of course, that's very generalized, but damage is just the way to go about things, at least for your mastery setup on Kayle. The reason I want to run Expose Weakness is because it's actually insane in team fights. It helps you when you get ganked by your own jungler, but in team fights, this mastery is just ridiculous. Especially if you're running Runaan's Hurricane, which, as I'll show you guys in the item build video, I do build Runaan's Hurricane occasionally on Kayle. Natural Talent versus Vampirism, they both suck. You can pick whatever you want. I pick the damage. If you want Sustain, pick the Sustain. It's up to you. Oppressor and Bounty Hunter, it's kind of the same thing. If you're building Rylai's like me, Oppressor is better 90% of the time, But if you don't really build Rylai's and your Q is your only way of slowing people down, there's an argument to be made about Bounty Hunter just being better for popping off and carrying the game. So again, it's up to you, whichever one you want. Piercing Thoughts is obvious here because Kayle just deals more magic damage than physical damage, unless you're building Crit Kayle. This is not a guide for Crit Kayle though, because I don't play Crit Kayle. It is viable, it is possible, it's just not something I do. The rest of your masteries, you can put 12 into Resolve if you want to. I put 12 into Cunning because it gives you the most damage. Savagery for CSing. If you don't care about CSing, go Wanderer. Assassin for 1v1 potential. This is kind of our compensation for the double-edged sword that we're not getting, right? So if you really want to, you can run double-edged sword over here and Assassin, and, you know, that'll be good. If you feel like you need the sustain, which you shouldn't, but if you do, you can also run Feast. These are all viable, I just like Exposed Weakness better. And Merciless, again, just for extra damage, and then Dangerous Game because it's better than Bandit. That's pretty much it. Like I said, though, you do have the option to go into the Resolve tree. If you're going into the Resolve tree, though, I would not do that with an attack speed-based build. I would do that if I was going full AP Kayle. So if I was building Lichbane with Rabadon's Death Cap, I would go into the Resolve tree. The reason for this is because your entire argument for going into the Resolve tree is Runic Armor, which works wonders with your heals. So obviously, when you're building a lot of AP, your heals will be really strong, and so you're making the most out of Runic Armor when you're going full AP Kayle. If you're going kind of AP-ish, but it's more like an on-hit attack speed build, I wouldn't recommend going 12 in Resolve. And in fact, even when I do build full AP Kayle, I still don't go with these masteries, these 12 points in Resolve. I just wanted to show you guys that it is a possibility, it is something you can do, and overall, I would recommend that you try it out if you want to, but it's up to you. Personally, I just like to have as much damage as possible, as you'll see in the builds as well. My builds are very similar, but yeah, those are the best possible runes and masteries for Kayle. There's not much confusion here, it's very sort of straightforward. You can't really go with too many different things here because Kayle just needs the attack speed and the on-hit damage that badly. But thanks for watching, and if you want to see how I build Kayle, then you can click this link right here.